Good morning, Tri-Cities and Benton and Franklin County. It's 9 o'clock on Friday, so it's time for Coffee with Karl. Today kicks off our February special event, which is the kickoff of our 22nd annual Economic Outlook. We usually, for 22 years now, normally would be all together in the convention center and having multiple panels at multiple times during a big all-day session. But this year we're going to do it virtually. So this one kicks it off, and we are excited to have our partners from our local downtown associations. And we're going to talk about the economic outlook for downtowns locally this year. So I am going to start in no particular order. I'll start with Jessalyn Cole from the Historic Downtown Prosser Association. Jessalyn, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Karl. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Next, we have Mandy Wallner from the city of Richland. Good morning, Mandy.
Morning.
Stephanie Button from Historic Downtown Kennewick Partnership. Good morning, Stephanie.
Good morning. Hello.
And last but not least is Gustavo Gutierrez Gomez from the Downtown Pasco Development Authority, live from the Downtown Pasco podcast studio. Good morning, Gutierrez.
Buenos dias. Good morning.
Good morning, Gustavo. Excuse me. All right, well, we'll kick off. I think everybody's joined us before, but this is the first time for Jessalyn. So the first thing we do is talk about our coffee mugs. And so because we all are economic development superheroes, I've got the economic development superhero mug from GIS Planning. I thought that was relevant. You know, we spent a lot of time on Zoom this past year talking about, sharing ideas and what's going on in each of our areas. And I think Tracy Zhao from the TriDeck team named those Tuesday meetings the economic development superhero. So I've got the mug to prove it, and I'll kick us off. So let's go to Stephanie next. Do you have a mug or a coffee story for us?
I do, yeah. So here the cheese, but it is from Matt's Juicy Lucy. So this is a burger joint in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where my grandpa's from. And they're famous for their Juicy Lucy, which is a cheeseburger, but the cheese is inside the burger. So it is this like greasy, cheesy monstrosity of a burger that is absolutely delightful. And so when my mom and sisters went back to Minnesota a couple years ago, they had to stop there and pick up this very famous local place. So I thought it'd just be a fun little thing rather than my industrial size Yeti, which is off screen. I thought this would be fun.
That's awesome. Well, I think they're having a deep freeze in Minnesota right now, so they're probably all looking forward to a really nice, warm, Juicy Lucy.
Yes.
Right. Jessalyn, let's go to you next. Do you have a coffee story or mug you want to share with us this morning, or anything about coffee?
Sure. So I've actually been working from home in the mornings and have been getting our local coffee that roasts here in town, so from Bruminati's. But then on Fridays, I kind of splurge and take turns with our downtown coffee places. So this morning I went and got a caramel macchiato from Bruminati's. Last week I went through Becky's drive-through, and then we have a new coffee place that opened since all this started, Shaka Cafe, and they're the only downtown one that's open on Sundays. So that's my Sunday go-to.
All right. And what was the name of the roaster again? And do they roast right in the coffee shop, or do they have
do. Yeah, it's Bruminati's right downtown. They're also a concert venue. Oh, cool. Yeah, and he started roasting his own coffee in the back. I did a video about it and went through the process with him to learn how to roast the coffee beans.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you have that on your website or something? Can we go check it out?
It's on our Facebook. I need to figure out how to transfer that to YouTube.
Okay, we can look it up on Facebook. That's awesome. Let's go to Gustavo next with the coffee mug story. Anything you got?
You know what? Last time I showed you obviously the Santo, which is my favorite, but today I actually have this one from Oregon State University. There's a couple things that happen when I look at this mug. First, I remember how much I volunteer and work through different programs for minorities, but then it also reminds me how much money I still owe them. So, so anyway, and this morning I had Chocolate Abuelita, then I actually got a Vieira's Bakery with alfajores.
Oh,
so
very nice.
These are like delicious. So if anybody wants alfajores, they're actually like a Peruvian kind of cookie, with caramel inside. They have them at Vieira's Bakery, and obviously they have Chocolate Abuelita, which is like a Mexican hot cocoa. So that's why. But today, I have my superhero still on my mask.
That's perfect. That's very perfect. And I have to say, go Beavs.
Go Beavs, yes.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Mandy, how about you? What do you have for coffee or coffee mug story for us this morning?
Well, you know, since you do the coffee with Karl, I had to up my coffee mug game. So over the holiday, I was able to benefit from my friends finding mugs for me. So I found that to be an entertaining game. This one, I think, had to do with COVID and how much craziness and work was happening. And so it says, you're crazy is showing, you might want to tuck that in. And so it just kind of reminds me to keep it together, even if it's crazy, COVID or not. So I also have always been a smiley face person in my life. So they're kind of all over my life in different ways. And so it kind of tied everything together for me and makes me smile on those tough days. So I thought this was not a tough day, but a fun one. So I thought I'd share.
That's a good reminder. You know, last week we had on a group of folks from the chaplaincy, and we talked about mental health issue, and we learned that going back to like when monks were living in, you know, monasteries and secluding themselves, that there was this medical condition that comes from isolation. And I forget the term, but it's like, you know, to a certain degree, I think we all feel that we're working from home, we're isolated, we're not doing our normal things because of COVID. And I think it's okay to, you know, admit like, hey, it's tough some days, but it is part of what we're going through. And because we're talking about the outlook for this year, we can always say, hey, it's getting better and we're going in the right direction. So that's awesome. Well, I thought we'd start off just very generally, and I'd like to start with Jesselyn because it's her first time with us. Jesselyn, can you give us a little background on historic downtown Prosser and just talk a little about your organization and then, you know, the downtown, and then we'll just go around just for background and then, you know, kind of get into the discussion.
Sure. So our historic downtown was started by a group of community members in 2006. And we're only a town of what, like 6,500, maybe we're pushing 7,000 now. So small, concentrated district, which makes it nice for me to get around and actually get to know the merchants and be able to connect one-on-one. And I would say, let's see, I'm coming up on my 4th year as the executive director. And I have a really fantastic board of 9 volunteers who support me in everything. They just give a lot of time of themselves, and which just, I mean, it makes my job easy. And so I did grow up here in Prosser and then left for a number of years, then got married and said it's time to go home, and this was home. So it really is fortuitous that I fell into this job. It's really easy for me to be a cheerleader for a community that is just amazing. We partner with our Economic Development Association and with the Chamber. I mentioned to you, Karl, before the call started that my office is in the historic train depot downtown, and we actually share space with the Chamber. So makes it easy to work together on things. Our organization is growing. We are taking over the Prosser Farmers Market. We started looking into that last year. Their board was looking to retire and hand that off and approached us about it. And we're really looking forward to that opportunity. Fortunately, a couple of their board members are staying on through the transition. And yeah, so things are going well. We're keeping busy. Obviously, things are different, not planning the same style of events, but changing things up and finding new ways to support downtown and the community as a whole.
Oh, that's awesome. I always appreciate learning about people's stories, you know, and their backstories and stuff. And it's cool that you got a chance to come back home. And even though it's hard for me as an Idaho Vandal to talk about Boise State, I think Kellen Moore is the pride of Prosser, right? Like it's cool that we have these connections to, you know, towns that we have and stuff. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mandy, you want to talk a little bit about how the city of Richland works with your downtowns and kind of your role in it, and, you know, versus the other organizations that are kind of standalone nonprofits, and, you know, how you guys do it at City of Richland, and then talk a little bit about you have 2 districts that you work with, right?
Yeah, so Richland is a little bit different than the other cities in that we have 2 business improvement districts. One is located where the Parkway is, called our Downtown Business Improvement District. And then we have the Uptown Business Improvement District, which has the Uptown. And so one of my hats at the city is the liaison between the Business Improvement District and the city, because we own the surrounding property to those buildings. And so when the business improvement district was established, it became, it's not a taxing district, but they do pay dues into a fund that then goes back to those BIDs as their maintenance fund. And they use that for trash and for Christmas lights and things that go up during the holidays and different programs that they run. And then the city actually is who maintains like the flowers and the landscaping and the sidewalks and the street. So the Parkway Street is actually owned by the city. The parking lot and the sidewalks at the Uptown are owned by the city. And so we maintain those in partnership with the Uptown and the Parkway BIDs in order to make those kind of a little bit more upscale and prettier. And, you know, then they were able to maintain on their own because, as you might imagine, having 30 some business owners, it was a challenge to get everybody on board for what they needed to pay and what they needed to do. So this kind of leveled that playing field for the building and business owners in order to get them a little bit more consistent curb appeal. And then they each have different programming and different board of directors that use, you know, that run those organizations and different programming. And so I just kind of help assist as we can along the way.
Stephanie, how about historic downtown Kennewick? Can you just kind of give us that, you know, elevator pitch and scope for what you guys do as an organization and just talk about your downtown district?
Yeah, so the Historic Downtown Kennewick Partnership, we're part of the Main Street, like Prosser and Pasco. So we have a designated district that encompasses the historic core of downtown Kennewick. We have with Red Mountain Kitchen, there's an additional 30 businesses. So we have well over 140 businesses, ranging from, you know, automotive to food to, you know, retail to business services. And we are an independent nonprofit. We were started by an organization of individuals from downtown and from Columbia Drive. And it was so that there would be that guiding voice, that person in the room who can connect businesses, who can advocate for businesses with our partners at the city and the port and beyond. So we not only provide, you know, technical assistance to our businesses, especially during COVID, helping connect them to funding resources. We also promote the district as a whole. We organize programs and events when we can. And of course, with COVID, we're innovating with what we can do. Like Justin, we get to be cheerleaders. We get to root and support and fight so hard for our business's success. We're also a membership organization. So merchants and businesses, people who live, love, and work in the downtown, or you don't have to be in downtown, you can still love and work down here, can become a member of our organization, and that then their dues help us support our activities, our programs, our resources, to continue to build resiliency in the downtown, which has never been more important, as well as help with the recovery and the relief and the overall growth of downtown. So we wear a lot of hats, we get to do a lot of things, and we get to have great relationships with our businesses, because they're not just businesses, they're people and families, and they make our communities what they are.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And Gustavo, can you talk a little bit about downtown Pasco development?
Of course, I'll be glad. And I was going to say, I was hoping not to go so fast on my hat, Coco, because you're going to see me, I'm cheating. I have another cup. I just cannot help it. That's my second cup. I apologize. But anyway, now you know, if you want to make me happy, give me chocolate, abuelita. So
that's so awesome. I just have to say that your microphone and your podcast sounds awesome. Like you're making all the rest of us jealous, you know?
Oh, sorry. So I was going to say, well, today, well, anyway, so our downtown district is that, you know, like Stephanie's, we are a program through the Main Street, you know, state program. And we just actually signed up to be also part of the national. And we have a district and we work, we do have over 100 businesses, but you know, a lot of those, well, some of them do not really participate in some of the stuff that we do. So we have like 82 and they're pretty active. And I'll say probably of those 82, probably around 32 of them are the most connected to us, you know, specifically within the culture, because downtown Pasco is very culture specific. So I'll say 97, 98% of those people, as many people know, the business owners are immigrants. Either obviously there's males, females, we have LGBTQ. So we do have a diverse population, a different range of business owners. And it's amazing, really, you know. So the thing is, we have been collaborating with them to create as you know, as Stephanie says, we do have some events throughout the, then they've been going on for like 10 or more years before my time. I've been here for only 1 year. And because of COVID, we had to go virtual. So we did some virtual events. And the other thing is we've been working, alongside, next to them, because we can only provide certain things with the funds that we have. We do provide technical assistance. We have a business incubator, which is a commercial kitchen. We have a farmer's market that runs from May to October. But when it comes to the technical assistance, we do provide either design, graphic design for logos. We do provide a web page, like a simple web page that we can do. We provide a list of businesses, and we also do commercials now, digital. We can create digital commercials, 30 to 45 seconds, and they're at no cost through our community radio, which is Radio Fortaleza. So we're just trying to make sure that everybody, business is promoted equally. And the other thing that is very interesting, we were able, thanks to the city of Pasco, we were able to give away over $800,000 so far, to Pasco at large. And in our little district here, we were able to give $228,000 through donations from a couple foundations. One is Seattle Foundation, the other one is Group Health Foundation. And with some of that money, we'll also be giving tablets, little Chromebooks to some of the business owners, because sometimes they cannot communicate with us because of COVID. And sometimes their computers are not really to communicate, they're more for business. So we've been doing that. And throughout the pandemic, as some of you know, we've been giving like loterias, and we've been giving like signs for the floors and signs for their, basically, bilingual signs for their windows and stuff like that. And, we just been, I think the farmers market has helped us a lot, to not only bring revenue, we actually brought $53,000 on donations from the campaign from the Put on the Mask, which for me was amazing. Yeah. And so we're still here. I still kept all the employees. There's still 5 of us full-time and a couple part-time. So and I think, that's it. We're collaborating with them. The challenge, which I love the challenge because it's really nice. The challenge with the community in downtown Pasco is that they're always being the place to go to shop statewide, even from Idaho and Oregon, for people in the Latino community for, big parties, weddings, quinceañeras, anything. And because of COVID, they really got hurt, economically speaking. So we're trying our best so they will not close. But still they're still really hurt, and they just have to diversify and trying to change their business models. And I hope that we can collaborate and help them out. And that's it. Thank you.
That's really good. Thank you. And I wanted to point out for anyone watching our webinar or watching on social media, you can ask questions. So we use the question and answer feature if you're on Zoom. If you're on social media, you can put your question in the comment box, and we'll do our best to get through it, and we'll work it into our conversation. But I just wanted to give a plug to each of you guys and your organizations and talk about economic development. At TriDec, that's our role for both counties. And obviously we partner with Prosser Economic Development for specific programs that are Prosser specific. But, usually people think about economic development like attracting companies, and Mandy wears a lot of hats at City of Richland. So we work on all those things together. But I think what each of your downtowns represent is this really important part of economic development, and that's quality of life and placemaking. So like if we're trying to attract a company to come here, if we're trying to keep a company here that's growing and they might be, lured away to another community to move, vital downtowns and just places where people can go and shop and eat and have the experience that each of your downtowns offer is a really important part. So I wanted to highlight that, and why it's really important that we all work together. As me, just like Gustavo being here 1 year, I think that we do work together, and there's always more things that we can do. But economic development isn't like just this one thing or that one thing. It's really all of us pulling together. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit, and then kind of move into what we've been doing during COVID. Before we get into the outlook and looking forward, but just talk a little bit about some of the programs maybe that each of you have implemented within your areas, and then kind of how it went. Maybe this time we'll kick off with Stephanie, if you can kind of give us an overview. And actually, I think you gave us a little cue before this that you said you did a virtual breakfast, which sounds kind of interesting. And obviously Gustavo just talked about some of the programs they're doing for COVID, but you want to kick us off on like what are you doing for COVID and how's it going, Stephanie?
Yeah, keeping our businesses informed and connected so they understand what relief or stimulus could be available to them or eligible. But then the biggest thing in 2020 and as we move into 2020 is we got to get people to downtown and help our businesses be ready for them when they are, so that they have the correct PPE for themselves and their employees. They have the signage, they have the sanitation needed to keep things clean, but also so many people are at home. So how we can help promote the district with targeted advertising, with radio ads, and bringing events that have people come downtown. So we also operate a farmers market June through October on Thursday evenings. That's been a huge, our farmers market sales, brought in, I think like $68,000 just to the vendors. But then it also coincided with our alfresco. So place activation, activating spaces outside for people to gather and for commerce to take place. During our alfresco series and just with the programming we're able to do in our Flag Plaza, that's well over 13,000 square feet of space we can activate for outdoor commerce during COVID, and being able to work with our partners at the city to allow us to repurpose these streets and sidewalks in that way really helped our businesses survive tough months at the peak of shutdown in the spring and summer months. We're looking at how we're going to repeat that this year, maybe not a full 8-week closure, but we saw the vibrancy and the resiliency that came from that when we were able to work with our businesses and partners to expand into these newly activated spaces. So we have plans in 2021 to continue that in our Flag Plaza with street sidewalks, easements, and then how we can pivot our programming, like our very popular Classy Chassis car show, which is always Mother's Day weekend. We know we can't have a car show this year, but maybe there's something, not quite a car show, that allows people who would come to downtown Kennewick for Mother's Day weekend and shop in our stores. And with 2021, we're watching what's happening at the legislature, both at the state and at the federal level, making sure that we are advocating for bills that make sense for our business community, that will help them open and receive the relief that they need if they're unable to open due to these circumstances, and celebrating the wins that we've had. Even though it's been hard, our downtowners are tenacious. Our business owners are innovative and focused, and we have new businesses opening downtown, replacing vacancies, or in cases where businesses had to close, we've had a business succession turnover happen. So there's been a lot of great work that's been done, even though it has been hard. So our job is to highlight, support, and to continue to make possibilities possible in our communities.
That's awesome. Jessalyn, how about you? How's it going in downtown Prosser? And what are some things that you guys have done, COVID related, to just try to offset some of these restrictions that we're under?
Sure. So like Stephanie, getting resources to our businesses. Pretty early on, we partnered with the city and the chamber and Prosser Economic Development and started weekly partner meetings, and then utilized all of our databases to send out one newsletter that gave all the information that they could possibly want or need in regards to different resources that were available, how we could help. Economic Development did a survey that helped us kind of guide that to, like, what are our businesses needing most. So we've continued to do those partner meetings every other week now, and then the newsletter is every other week as well. So that's been really good and just strengthened those partnerships that we already had, but now are just so much more meaningful. And then we, like Kennewick, started doing some downtown dining during the summer and closed one block that has the most restaurants on it, and worked with the city, got some CARES grants dollars for that to purchase some furniture and barricades, and worked really closely with the chamber on getting that done. And we're hoping to grow that somehow this year. We're not sure what it will look like, but even with the new guidelines that have come out, a lot of our historic buildings still aren't able to open with the open air like they're suggesting. We have windows in buildings that don't open, so unless we're breaking them out, they can't. That isn't a solution. The heating and air systems, these buildings were built in the early 1900s. So, and then one entrance exit door, again, just doesn't do the airflow. So trying to mitigate that in education too with the community. Like, we know you're all ready to dine inside, and our restaurants would love to do that, but they also have to keep everyone safe. So yeah, and then we're just working on different things. Like this month, we're doing Love Local. And so we worked again with the chamber and are doing some different programs, have kids coloring, and they can bring the pages to us for candy, and community members making Valentines that we'll deliver to the businesses. And we're doing a chocolate crawl for the first time, challenging everyone to have chocolate from somewhere in town every day this month. It's going well. I love it. Yeah, I've told my husband, yes, it's for work and my job is very tough. So just trying to keep a positive outlook. We know times are tough. We know that, and we do what we can to support and help and just be there oftentimes to listen and again point to those resources and find out what we can do during this time to help out.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what we've all done, to your point about coming together and coordinating, having meetings, trying to share resources. And I think that's a great point that, for businesses, where do they go beyond, the health district or something like that on guidelines, and being able to put that together. That's great. Mandy, how about City Richland? How's it going? I know you guys have done some, I think, outdoor dining things. And I know the city's been really great to work with on, hey, what can we do, and changing some of these ordinances or flexing them and stuff, like last summer, for instance. But can you talk a little bit about what you guys have been through, in the downtown districts?
Yeah, so we did our best to respond as quickly as we could, kind of noticing that there was information coming at people from all directions, some good, some bad. And so I kind of positioned our richlandbusiness.com webpage as a go-to for that COVID information that was reliable, that was resourceful, that could kind of be a one-stop shop for those businesses to go download, printable signs or the latest information on phasing, or, Inslee just got off a press conference, this is the directive. To just kind of boil it down, simplify it. Here's a bulleted list. This is what you need to do for this money. This is what you need to do for this money. And try to then verse myself so that I could be a resource, because, then of course you start getting calls. And so trying to be able to help support those businesses get their financials in place and get, the paperwork together that they needed, and then keep that packet because it's going to be the same for all those loans. In addition to that, we were able to pivot some CDBG block grant funds that we had at the city, as well as some COVID funds that we received to offer grants to businesses, which was a program that we handled in-house, which I learned how to be a loan administrator, which I'm not certain I really ever was meant to do, but I figured it out. And so we did that information. Of course, then we also did our waiver program, which was intended to be an outdoor use waiver, but we have the ability to waive other ordinances and code dependent on COVID response. And so in order to do that, we were able to allow businesses to go out and use their parking lot areas and, provide waivers. And it was a no fee application. And we kind of helped everybody walk through that to be able to get outdoor dining going. And in some cases, people are still using it. In some cases, they took the winter off, but trying to find a way to help them manage the life safety issues of bringing your propane heater into the tent for the winter, and how that may or may not be a great idea. And working with the fire department and some of those to kind of make those, as painless as we can, but keep everybody safe. Oh. So, we're not trying to put anybody out of business. We're just trying to help everybody get along. And so how can we come along and aid in that? Sometimes it is provoked by a question somebody asks that I don't have a solution to, and then we can create something new. And then sometimes it's trying to come up with those programs on our own. But just supporting events, having partner meetings with all of you guys, hearing what everybody else is doing. Sometimes it's easier to just copy y'all and then help you when you need it than it is to create our own. So that network and being able to work together coming out of this, I think, was also a real asset for us from an economic development standpoint.
Yeah, that's a great point. Gustavo, you talked about a few of the programs that you guys have implemented. I'm especially interested in the website one that you talked about. And I think that just a couple of discussions that we've had over the past year amongst ourselves and amongst other small business owners, a lot of small businesses, especially maybe in a downtown, have struggled with, like, whatever you call it, jumping the digital divide, right? Like if you're kind of relying on walk-in traffic or traditional advertising, how do you at least get a web presence. And I think, Gustavo, you talked a little bit about what you guys are able to do to help some of your businesses have, basically even a simple web page so people can find them when they do a Google search or something. But you can give us a little more detail maybe on that program, and then other things you guys have done, COVID related, to try to help your members and businesses.
Thank you. Thank you for this space, because the interesting thing is, I started November 2019, and as a new executive director, I do have some experience with programming, but I was on the other side. I used to work for government, giving money away. Now I'm in the other side where I had to be asking for money all the time, but it's awesome because we are a 501c3. So, and we also have the Main Street program where people can actually buy tax credits and get some money, 75% back. So anyway, the point is, I had to restructure the whole organization. Even though it's not a large organization, I had to restructure it. We have to hire people who were cultural aware, cultural sensitive, and bilingual bicultural. So the interesting thing is, it took me time to create a team, and it took me time to find the right people to actually do it clearly, concise, and neutral. Because the language, it's like any other language. Well, this probably is a little harder, like French, because they're like love languages. Am I right? They're not scientific. So even the way I speak, I had to go all around it before I actually got to the point, because it's just different. But the thing is, so to do economic development, specifically in this area, it really needed more community building. Not even community development, just community building, because a lot of these people were really disenfranchised, like they were not connected to actually like what's going on around them. They're like secluded in their own little bubble here in downtown, and I love the downtown experience. Am I right? Here in Pasco, but they had to understand how much they're worth, like as a jewel, and not because they perhaps who they are as people, but because of the experiences that they provide for everybody else. They're unique. So, and that's the piece. And I think that's been the toughest thing, trying to communicate with them how valuable they are and how we can collaborate, because there was a misperception that somehow DPDA had to do things like as a city. Am I right? And we're not a city entity or government. We are a DP. I mean, thanks to the city, we run a program that we can get money from the block grant. Am I right? That's what we are, DPA. So saying that, it's like everything went amazingly, even through COVID, because we were able, thanks to that cultural piece, we were able to, we had some contracts with people, like salsa, merengue. They play salsa, merengue. We have people from regional, like Mexican regional music, and some, I don't even know how to call it. It's like a little norteño. So anyway, so we already had those contracts for Cinco de Mayo. When it didn't happen, we went virtual. And then we already had a contract with luchadores, with the wrestlers from Portland, PDX. Yeah. And the thing is, because of COVID-19, we couldn't do it. And because of the restrictions in the gyms, we couldn't do it. So we had to go to Mexico. I mean, they have to, because we had the contract. So they did a wrestler match in Mexico in an area than they was allowed, and we still put it into our we stream it to the people in Pasco. So it went amazing. And of course, the farmers market helped us out to talk about it, to let people know, to do the mask, the face mask. And then the interesting thing, people were engaged. I just want to give you one example. The first day that we came out with Ponte la Máscara, in 2 hours, we got rid of 300 of these. And the thing is, people were coming and they said, I haven't been here in 20 years. But some people were, I want them all, because we have all the classic wrestlers. Yeah. So when because we brought wrestlers, because we already had the contract, so we brought them. And people wanted them to do a match, but of course we couldn't have crowds, am I right?
Right.
And so a couple of them were doing some wrestling in their own like corner over there. And of course we couldn't get people together, but we went through Facebook, and I thought people really enjoyed it. Even it was only like a 5-minute match. But those things are where I know when we go back to whatever kind of normal, we'll have a lot more fun bringing those little pieces of the culture. That way they know that we're here and we're collaborating, because in the end, I'm still Mexican and I'm still immigrant, and I still grew up with almost the same kind of things, than they did. So, and, the last thing we're doing right now, as we talked before, is trying to get people together and play at home and don't go as much. So we created, as I promised before, the Tri-Cities memory game. Yeah. And it has our sponsors in the back. And these are like 41, 42 cards. Of course, we did the best we can, because I took the pictures and somebody draw them. And anyway, the point is, you can get this at the farmers market. You can get this at our office. And we even got a mascot, which is that guy. And we call him Paco, not because he's a Latino guy, because he's Pasco Colima. Because, you know, his name is Paco, which is Francis. So Pasco Colima. And anyway, Pasco Colima is, as probably you know, the city of Pasco has this treaty as a friendship agreement with the state of Colima, and I was born in Colima. So we're doing the best. We did those events, and thanks to the farmers market, we were able to collaborate and actually overcome all the difficulties. And we're going much stronger this year. So hopefully, following the guidelines, you'll see more events like virtual or hybrid.
Yeah. Well, that's a great segue into the next thing we want to talk about, which is actually, you know, the outlook for 2021 and realizing that we're all anxiously awaiting, you know, getting vaccinated and, you know, more things. But I think there are some very positive things going on out there. Schools are starting on hybrid schedules, and that's going across the age, you know, getting more kids out and safe and involved. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, what do you see coming up in 2021 and realizing we don't know when could we get to a phase 2. You know, we're still kind of working collectively with the governor's office, Department of Health to get there. But what are some things that maybe you see coming up, or maybe that you're starting to work on or plan now for, you know, when we get to that point? And maybe this time we'll start with Jesselyn in Prosser.
Hey, I have a train going through, but the whistle is done.
Sorry.
So
Okay.
hopefully everything's okay. So we've started, I mean, we're looking at our calendar, like what can we keep doing? What can we start planning? We had our first sip and stroll in March of 2019. And that was actually our first event that was canceled in 2020. The night before, like health department was telling us on Friday, you're good to go. It's okay because you're in so many different venues. Nope, not a problem. And then I think it was at 4:30, they called and said, no, we can't really stand behind that. And so, again, my board came, I had one on our office phone, another on their own cell phone. I was on cell phone. Somebody else was sending emails. Unfortunate. So that should have been our first event for this year, and we cannot do it in March. So sad, but moving forward, thinking of other things. And like I said, working with Chamber really helps us out. They are more event heavy than we are. So trying to step up and helping them look at things differently and, well, what can we do? Thinking about Easter. They do a big community Easter egg hunt, and that may end up being scavenger hunt style throughout the month of April. We don't know. And then, yeah, just, I guess, like Stephanie was saying, reinventing and thinking, how do I do this differently? And then also, what else has been lower on the priority list that we can start working on in the background now? We just got our music system up and running. Friday was the final installation. So very excited to have that going and music downtown again. And then we did get, so another project that we had talked about before COVID, but got it going, our community cash program. So people can buy this community cash from here at our office and use it at any of the participating businesses, and then they turn that back into us for straight reimbursement. So no money made on it. And one of our banks, Yakima Federal, usually heavily sponsors some of the events through Chamber, and was not able to do that, but put that money instead towards community cash. So started us out with some that we could just give away and start that program. So again, just trying to find what is needed, what we can work on, and not stress about what we're missing out on, but move forward.
Oh, that's great. I just out of curiosity, and you know, I've been to Prosser a couple times. One time with my family, and we actually got some takeout food. I forget the name of the. It was kind of like a drive-in restaurant, kind of next to a grocery store, but it was
Davies.
Yeah, and it was awesome. You know, great burgers and fries and stuff. But
Yeah.
have you know, like your local community members been able to utilize takeout food and, you know, still supporting your restaurants? Is that been, like when I was there, it seemed like it was going well, at least with that one restaurant. But has that been going well as far as, you know, still community getting behind and supporting the businesses, whether it's retail or you know, restaurants.
Definitely. Yes, definitely. We have a lot of awesome community members that are behind all of our local businesses and yes, have stepped up. So we did a cash mob for retail once a month, and we're actually looking at doing a restaurant edition starting in March. So
Oh,
I'm going to be talking to all those restaurants and getting them on board and try to support them that way as well.
that's cool. And I haven't checked the chat. Tracy probably already put up a link, but do you guys, in Prosser, is this on your website? So, you know, we could try to direct people there if they're interested in going and participate in one of these events. They can come
Yes, and I saw Tracy put that in and also put a link to our community cache, which thank you very much. We are also in the middle of finishing our brand new website. So final changes are being made on that, and hopefully we'll go live next week, I think. So our website is still there, but it's not as up to date as it could be since we've invested heavily in a new website. So that's exciting too. And our Facebook page, I would say, is probably the best place to go for the most up-to-date information.
That's great. Thanks, Mandy. How about City Richland? What are, you know, just, I know, like I said, there's so many variables and we don't know exactly when we're going to get phase 2 and open, but anything you guys are working and planning with, you know, in both districts, or some things maybe that are coming up for 2021?
I think both BIDs are working on getting our meetings going for the year and kind of realizing that this COVID thing isn't going away. So we still need to have meetings, and we need to start planning with the restrictions that we have and move forward, as opposed to waiting and seeing, which I think a lot of people did for quite a few months. And so it's what can we do within the restrictions? And unfortunately, if you look at phase 2 versus phase 1, it's a lot similar. So even if we move to phase 2, the restrictions are in large part the same. And so we might as well move forward as if we're in phase 1 with, you know, only slight variation in phase 2 and get some things going. So I know our farmers market is looking at, you know, firing up for June. So that'll still, I believe, be in the Parkway this year. And then in addition to that, you know, working on proactively getting those outdoor use waivers in place so that they're ready to accommodate people when we can go back outside on beautiful sunny days like in February.
Yeah.
And then try to, you know, be able to and just be able to respond. The city's also been really great about cross promoting, writing news stories about new businesses and things that are being put on by other businesses or other things going on throughout the city, so that we can kind of be a conduit to get that news out and information to people about things going on. So using our Facebook and our website as leverage to help in an advertising capacity. In some cases, leveraging advertising that I place and pay for, that, you know, we can feature some of those things. In addition to just working on recruitment of new businesses to back some of the vacancies that have unfortunately happened, and or some of the people buying some of the buildings that have been vacated and remodeling those and offering our facade program to get those things up and off the ground and assist any way that we can. So in some ways it's response, and in some ways, you know, it's being proactive. I know our Parks Department is working on some events for the fall or for the spring. They started like Board in a Box and some of those promotions that were really popular this last fall. So I think you'll see some more things like that for us to kind of swivel some of our events to a different perspective, but still make sure they're happening to build that community. And then I think, you know, we're still going to move forward with projects like looking at nightlife and entertainment as we move more people into our downtown area, you know, trying to make sure that those resources are available. We love Richland, of course, but it does get a little sleepy at night sometimes, especially downtown. So is there a way that we can help revitalize that and bring some more excitement to downtown? In addition, looking at parking studies and things like that that aren't necessarily exciting, but they definitely help us plan as to what to do. We're designed a little bit different than big cities. So we have real small blocks in Richland. So that makes, you know, development hard to accommodate our parking standards and those types of things. So how can we work within those confines to make the best development we can?
You bet. You talked about businesses that start up, and I you know, like when we do check-ins, I think we all talked about it. Stephanie just talked about a couple businesses that started up, but Mandy, you know, I've even seen in the Herald, and they'll say like new restaurants going to open in Richland and stuff. Like, have you talked with some of those people that are opening new restaurants? And I'm just curious, I think it's awesome, right? I mean, we're going through COVID. We know that businesses are so challenged, especially in downtowns, that are, kind of restaurant or retail or something like that. And what's that mindset? I mean, I think it's awesome, but like, do you have maybe a story of somebody that you met or worked with, like they're like, yeah, I'm going to start a business even in the middle of COVID? Like, what's that like? Like, can you share a story with us?
It's been really exciting. I mean, I can think of actually two that come to mind. One was a relocation. They closed their space because their lease went up and they just weren't ready to be done. And so they found a different space in Richland and they were able to, move and get situated. And so now we're lucky enough to have Pacific Pasta in Richland. And so they've got an older building that's kind of tucked away, but I think they have the exposure and the following that will work. And they were not going to be done. And so it is that tenacity that Stephanie talked about downtown. And I think, they started planning that they are going to open this business and they're going to do it in 2020 or 2021. And, COVID aside, they're still going to do it. Also, I think some of them, they see all this federal stimulus that's coming and you're not eligible unless you've been open for a year. And so you might as well start that clock ticking, in order to be eligible for some of those things and take advantage of the vacancies and some of the landlords that really need to lease their space. And so it's been an interesting because, we just know businesses are suffering and we hear that, they're struggling and it's hard and there's just not enough to go around. And then at the same time, there's still this excitement for people opening new businesses. And so, lately we've been on pace to see as many new ones open as we see close, which I think we're all a little bit more aware of that attrition, but I've been trying to go back and see how much of that happened anyway, in spite of the pandemic, and how we can help those new businesses starting in that time, not necessarily take away from businesses that have fought through the whole thing, but still promote them and start up. So a new one is a new sushi place at the Riverwalk down on Bradley, going to open in February. And she's fully aware that she's just going to have a small staff and open with takeout and get going. And then she'll open up her outdoor dining and has a schedule for how it's all going to go. And she's excited. So I want to be excited for her.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that we can share, those positive stories, because too many times we get caught up in like, oh, it's bad, when's going to end. But it's so, I think, encouraging to hear stories like that somebody's like, nope, I'm going to do it. This is my dream. I'm going to go make it work. And, what can we all do working together to support them and make sure that we support their businesses too. But Stephanie, how about you? What's your 2021 economic outlook? And then, any, you talked about some of the businesses that are starting, but any good stories you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a new business that opened up. We had a business relocate to a different block for a more prime position for her business, the missing piece. Chic and Unique Furniture took her place on the 300 block and is killing it. David Shoes, the owner Brenda is retiring and has sold her business to the White Bluff Boutique. So they'll be operating David Shoes and then having their boutique in the back. We've had some vacant spaces that have been vacant for years that are slowly starting to see activity. So we'll see what happens there. But one of the things that we were working on before COVID that we have resumed is our pursuit of a creative district designation. And we have resumed that application process. We're in the pre-application. We've met with our coordinators at the Washington Arts and Humanities, Annette Roth. And our community, our business community, our industry clusters are already creative industry type. In fact, I think like 72% of our businesses in the historic core qualify as creative industry. So we're already that. We're looking for that designation. So we are so excited to pursue that in 2021 and finish the year with a creative district designation for downtown Kennewick, the South Columbia Creative District. So we are pursuing that as part of our economic vitality strategy in 2021.
What does that mean? Like, what do you get some funding opportunities or special status, or what are the advantages to getting that district created?
Yeah, so the program itself at the state level is evolving. They have some legislation that they're pursuing for increased funding. But what that would mean is we get to partner with WashDOT and put signage on the highway indicating that there's creative district here in downtown Kennewick. So additional wayfinding and visibility on our highways for travelers. So that's going to be a great aspect to our tourism strategy. There's some initial startup matching funds that we would be eligible for with our own match to start the program. And then as the program grows, there could be capital funds available for us annually or biannually as the budget works to apply for capital projects or any kind of other programmatic expenditures to grow our district and provide those opportunities for creative industry. And downtown Kennewick has a phenomenal culinary scene with our wineries at Columbia Gardens. So the creative district wouldn't just include the historic core, it also goes to Clover Island and Columbia Gardens and Keewaydin Park. So it's a really inclusive space because like all of our downtowns, they don't happen in a vacuum. The city of Kennewick is 86,000 people and downtown Kennewick is just part of Kennewick. So we are part of a larger organism, and to make our part as strong and as collaborative as possible is going to beget economic prosperity and resiliency to the entirety of our community. So we are excited to work with our friends at the city and our partners at the port and at various cultural institutions around the area to make this happen this year.
That's awesome. And we do have a question before we go on to Gustavo that talks about House Bill 1279 that would increase Main Street dollars for that. And I know, Stephanie, you presented to Tri-Cities Legislative Council to, talk about some of those priorities, but before we go on to Gustavo, can you give a plug for 1279 and what it would do just for everybody out there? Like,
yeah, 1279 is fantastic. So that in Franklin County, we have 3 Main Streets. So essentially there is a Main Street tax credit program. This allows businesses who pay B&O taxes or utility taxes to contribute to self-direct their taxes to our downtown communities. And in return, they get a 75% tax credit the next year when they file their taxes. Down here, our Main Streets are also 501c3, so there's an additional federal credit that they could get for their contributions. But why this House bill is so important is it's going to raise the ceiling of tax credits available to, I believe, $4 million is what we're pursuing. Yes. And that is going to, right now we have 36 Main Street districts all competing for, I think, $2.5 million. And we want to raise this to $4 million so that not only is there more money for the 36 Main Streets, but there are also, another 30 affiliates, I think, in our network. So communities pursuing Main Street designation or some degree of Main Street support. And this is going to allow more communities in the state of Washington to participate in this program. And for every dollar that the state pays for Main Street programming, whether it's the tax credits or just to Washington Department of History and Archaeology and the National Trust, they get $1.50. Is it $1.50 or $1.58 return on every dollar spent? So the
58.
I think it's $1.58. So Main Streets, our small communities, our downtowns are really the economic driver of our state's economy. And when you count up all the employers and the employees in these Main Streets, in just these 36 districts, we are the highest employer in the state since Boeing had some layoffs. So we are a power horse. We are an economic engine in the state, and that is clear at the local level, at the city and county level. So that's why this House bill passing is so important to our program and to the economic health and resiliency of our state at large.
That's great. I appreciate that plug. And Tracy did put more information in the chat for anybody that's looking. But so we'd all encourage everybody to log in, which we can do remotely now, and support this bill. And let's hope that it passes. That's great. Thank you. Gustavo, outlook a little bit more on 2021. You've told about some programs, but what do you have in the hopper coming up?
2021, even with COVID, is going to be amazing. Different reasons why, because I've been working in rebranding the whole organization, and I've been working in, we did the farmers market. The rebranding this year is the downtown Pasco. It's a different logo, and it's all about putting Spanish in our daily news information and just communicating in Spanish just because of the people that we serve. Am I right? So somebody was saying, it's a very interesting concept. Well, it is what we had to get done in order to communicate with our peers and, people who collaborate with us. But the two main things that we started this podcast and this radio and everything is because of the city is there's a big investment coming, $6 million right here in front of us, refurbish of the Pasco Farmers Market, which in the last city council meeting already was approved. They actually approved the contract with the construction company. They're going to be working in there, and then they're going to be working in Louis Street. And then we also have the overpass, then it's coming. So this year is going to be a lot of construction going on in downtown. So it's going to really look much better, much vibrant, next year. So in our end as DPDA, it's keep our clients in the kitchen, keep the incubator working. We have 17 clients. We lost like 3 or 4. But like Stephanie was saying, in our corridor, in the main street, we also gained some, they just turn around so fast. People closed and then new businesses came in. And in the farmers market, we had 32 vendors and they already filled out their forms, to start in May. So I do see a lot of economic development happening and community building still, but we're just gonna drive it, and do our best with my team. The communications is a new piece because we needed a new we lost $300,000 in events. That's just the way it was. But I believe this new platform is for all of us, for all of you. So if you don't have the capacity to do the Spanish piece, you don't have the capacity to get the information, send it to us. We'll turn it around and put it in our page. So, I think that collaboration among us is going to help us to build this synergy on working together with our communities and economic and community development, and hopefully some dollars our way, because in the end, they're donations. So we can do a freebie, or we can do something more elaborate, like the video we did for the airport. The one in Spanish, we did that because we can do small scale for the little businesses, but we can also do something large. It just takes a little more time and a little bit of money, but once the donation is in, we can work with you. So, y lo hacemos en inglés y en español. So, ahí está. So anyway, gracias.
That's really awesome. Well, we have about 3 minutes, so I just want to start off and thank each of you for your time this morning. I think it's been a really good discussion. Every time we get together, I learn something, and we talk about ways that we can support each other and how we can work together. I think that's really our theme. We are, we're in different cities or different districts and stuff, but we are really one community. And, it's just awesome to see how we do work together and how we can do more in the future. I think, this is our first meeting for our economic outlook for TriDec in 2021. And I think it's great that the sun's out. And, we're not like the groundhog. So if we see our shadow today, I think that's a good thing for us. I think it's a optimistic 2021. So let's just go around, and if anybody has any last words. But thanks everybody for your time this morning, and we'll kick off closing statements with Jessalyn. And Jessalyn, thanks for joining us for the first time. I appreciate your time, and it's great to get everybody together.
Thank you again for having me. I was happy to join, step out of my comfort zone, and I survived it. So closing words, just love local. That's what I'm going to say. Love local.
That's perfect. Thanks. Mandy, closing statement or anything to leave us with looking into 2021?
I just think that, we're all starting to accept our new normal. And even if it's not our favorite, get out, shop small, support local, do what you can, whatever it is, whether it's, take out and enjoy it with your family, or, do some of this new dine-in hybrid outdoor dining, but just support our businesses, whether it's me in Prosser or you in Richland, however we can help and help each other. I really have appreciated the partnership. So thanks for the opportunity.
You bet. Thank you. Stephanie, closing remarks or words?
Again, thank you for the chance to talk about our downtowns, and all of our downtowns. We do talk to each other, especially with Main Street, but echoing just love local, shop small, support our local businesses. Many of them are innovating. They're online, they're on their social media. And sometimes even if you can't shop somewhere, if you can like a post, if you can recommend them to somebody else, that's huge. So yeah, echoing love local, shop local. And this Valentine's Day weekend, I encourage you to come downtown Kennewick.
Perfect. Thank you. Gustavo, you want to wrap us up for this morning? Thank you.
Yeah, same up here. I really want to invite everyone to have an experience. Come to downtown Pasco. It's a totally different experience. You have tacos, sopes, tortas, Hochos tacos, Carla snacks. I think culinary arts is the best. You'll find some of that stuff here and connects people, connects cultures. And, if you want and I didn't open it because it will make a lot of noise. But if you want one of these super cool bags, that we created, they will be at the farmers market by donation, but they're actually made of the same garment than actually the clothes for the native people in Colima, Mexico are made of. Oh, so cool. They're pretty cool, and they're usually like backpacks for low income people in Mexico. And it has the Pasco and some of the stuff that actually relates to our basically our tourism piece. So yeah, So I invite you all to come and check Pasco out. Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, thanks all of you again for your time and kicking us off with our economic outlook. Next Tuesday at 1 o'clock, we'll have Chris Green from Washington Department of Commerce, and he's who we work with on economic development. So that's going to be a great discussion. And then next Friday at 9 o'clock, we'll have Aisha Solvik from the ESD, and we'll talk about, she's an economist, and she'll give us numbers and stats and data and kind of tell us how we're doing and what's coming up in 2021. So thanks everybody for joining us today. Great discussion. Really appreciate it. Thanks for kicking off 2021, and we'll see you again on Tuesday. Thanks.